Spirit podcast. Join John and Sue Cook for a gentle, conversational guide to your spiritual development. Together with their guests, John and Sue will share their experience and wisdom to bring you insight and empowerment on your spiritual journey. This is episode 11, Near-Death Experience.
This is a very special podcast. We've got our first guest, Mark. Mark's got a very interesting story, which a lot of you I know are going to find fascinating and very interesting, because Mark's actually been in the spirit world, you could say.
Well, absolutely has. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on and being prepared to share your story, which is really unique. And I don't think you realise perhaps quite how unique it is because it happened to you. But as you tell it, and you have told it to us and members of a group who found it very emotional, it's so important, and we are so grateful that you're coming on to tell us about it.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to recount the story again. You said that it's quite unique, and probably if we'd have been having this conversation 100 years ago or 200 years ago, it would have been an extremely rare event for somebody to pass into spirit and then be revived and come back to the earthly plane so that they can explain what they've seen. But actually, I think with modern medicine, it's far from unique. There's probably tens of thousands of people alive today who have had this experience, and it's almost always a very profound experience for them.
Oh, it must be.
Yeah, probably not unique, but interesting nonetheless.
Yeah,
very interesting.
The only one we got in on the podcast so far was story. So in that sense, it's unique, but it is unique because I know without saying too much about the story at the moment, because you're going to explain it all as we go, that you've remembered so much and recorded so much and proven that it actually happened. So that might be more unique. I know other people have, but it is still there.
Yeah, so perhaps I should explain a little bit for the listeners my background. So by academic training, I'm a mathematician and a scientist, and I've spent my adult life in a career of science. So there's a very strong evidence-based side to my day-to-day existence. There's a lot of data, but I've had the advantage of having two sides to my psyche. I've had this scientific side, and I've also from a young age had a spiritual side.
And have they sat comfortably together over the years?
Comfortably for me, yes. Comfortably with my friends and colleagues, not always. I mean, so my first spiritual experiences happened when I was extremely young. Of course, when you're little, you assume that everybody's the same.
Yes.
That you can see things that aren't really happening, and that when you go to bed you can have dreams about events that haven't yet happened, or you can have dreams in which the perspective of the dream is not from your current self, but you're viewing the dream as a different person. And I felt this was completely normal. It never even entered my head that I might be different. Probably by the time I was 4 or 5, it was gradually dawning on me that not everybody was having these experiences. And I grew up in a family which wasn't religious, either in an organised sense or in a spiritual sense. So when I'd mentioned things to them about my experiences and my dreams and the messages that I'd been having as a small child, they'd be fobbed off as just the imagination of a young boy. I formed a very close relationship with my grandfather. He was a really big part of my early life. He was my mentor and guide, spiritual guide, in the sense that he was guiding my development as a young person.
Was he a spiritual man himself?
He was both spiritual and religious. He subscribed to organised religion. He was a Christian, and I never really felt comfortable with organised religion. Not that I have anything against it, it just didn't sit comfortably with me. My own belief system is that spirituality is much bigger than any one organisation can be. So he was a really big influence on my childhood and my early teenage years, and sadly he passed away when I was 14, and the day after he passed away I was given his wristwatch. My grandmother gave me the wristwatch, told me that one of the last things that he wanted to make clear as he was dying was that he wanted me to have that wristwatch. And so I wore the wristwatch. As soon as I was given the wristwatch, it was important for me to wear that wristwatch. The day after he'd passed, I was sat on my bed in my tiny, tiny bedroom, or so tiny it's almost like the Harry Potter cupboard under the stairs. I was sat on my bed, and I just felt his presence sitting on the end of the bed. It was a fleeting moment. It was there 1 second, and it was gone the next, and I just closed my eyes and asked Spirit, if that was really you, Grandpa, can you stop your watch at the time you died? So I went to bed. I had trouble sleeping, but eventually fell asleep. And when I woke up the next morning, the watch had stopped at 2:10.
Wow,
That's amazing.
But obviously, that the scientific side of me was already nascent in my teenage mind. So I asked the same again the next night. If that was not a coincidence, could you stop it again? And sure enough, the next day I woke up, it had stopped again at 2:10. And my grandfather stayed with me from Spirit, to start with on a daily basis through my teenage years and my time at college.
And how did that experience happen? Did you feel him? Was it a sense, or did you actually see him?
So sometimes I'd feel his presence. So I might be studying at university, I'd feel he was at the back of the room. Occasionally I'd see him, particularly in dreams. I should say that when I have dreams, there's a distinct difference. I have regular dreams, the kind of dreams everybody has. But I also have these weird dreams where I'm aware that I'm having this experience while I'm asleep. It registers as not a dream. It's a different kind of communication from my subconscious. And I used to see him a lot in those dreams. But mostly it was just a feeling if I was ever struggling to make a decision. I would feel as though he was giving me advice and guidance. And that was a constant presence through my teenage years and early adulthood.
That must have been very comforting.
Extremely comforting, because he was really one of the few people that I'd learnt to trust properly as a child. And it was great to have him around. Yeah, it was a great comfort. It was a great comfort to have him around. But then I went and got a job and highly focused on logic and analytics and data. Kind of every time that spirituality or any of those things were mentioned at work, it was always kind of making fun of it and lack of credibility. So I kind of just didn't mention it to my colleagues, and even now. So I'm still working. I've now been working in this field for over 40 years now, and I still don't mention it to colleagues. Very few colleagues. If I mention that,
It's got a stigma to it.
yeah, it's absolutely got a stigma. There's a silence falls on the room, and people look at me in a strange way and avoid talking to me the next day.
Yeah.
Such a shame.
It is a shame, but that's the way society is at the moment in general.
And ignorance leads to fear.
I think it's natural to fear what you don't know.
Yeah.
And, of course, most of what there is to know, you don't know. My belief is that there's an infinite amount of knowledge and wisdom in spirit. But then when we come to the earth to inhabit a physical body, very little of that is accessible to us if we don't try to connect to it deliberately. So yes, we don't know so many things. And you asked earlier about how comfortably does spirituality sit with my scientific background. From a personal point of view, I'm completely happy with it. It sits very comfortably. Let's not forget that if we go back in time to the cycles of the moon, the tides, the movement of the sun and the stars across the heavens, those things were regarded as spiritual things in times gone by. It's only recently that that's become a scientific understanding. So in many ways, science is about explaining things that used to be mysterious or spiritual, and my belief is that there will come a time when the things that we talk about now, like mediumship and connecting with spirit and intuition, all of those things will have some understanding from a scientific point of view. So for me, they sit perfectly comfortably.
Yeah. Well, it's not new, is it? It's been going on forever.
Yeah, science is new.
Yes.
And when people refer to our belief system, sometimes they'll call it New Age, which is the greatest misnomer of ever.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so, spirit is as old as time. And in fact, in spirit, there is no time.
There is no time. And I think that's very important, isn't it? That time is a man-made structure.
Yeah, so getting back to your not quite so unique story as we first thought.
Yeah.
Can you explain and talk about what it is we're actually going to talk about?
Okay.
So, I visit the hospital regularly. I have a chronic health problem, which means that I have to go to hospital every 6 to 8 weeks, get cannulated, connected to a drip, and receive some medication. And this has been ongoing now for a number of decades. Usually goes perfectly normally without any complications or very much pain. In 2019, I'd been suffering a few side effects from my regular medication, and so they decided that they would try an alternative, which they thought might be slightly less painful for me, but did carry some risks of anaphylactic reaction. They set me down. I was going to be observed. I was in the treatment room. They connected me up to this new medication. Started the drip really slowly, a few millilitres in at a time. And so they started the treatment, and after only a couple of minutes, I felt a sort of itchy feeling on my arms, and then a sort of tingling over my whole body, and I was aware that my skin was hot and clammy. And because my nurse, a lady called Sarah, had said that if I felt any strange symptoms that I was to tell her immediately. So these weren't really very severe symptoms, but I decided that maybe I should say something. So in my head, I called out to Sarah to say that I wasn't feeling completely normal, but the voice only happened in my head. Nothing came out of my mouth. And the harder I struggled, the more I realised that I was saying it in my head, couldn't get the words out. It's like I was paralysed with, that I couldn't get the words out. But so gradually I started to feel detached. I didn't feel my normal self at all. It felt like I was not properly connected to my feelings. And then I can remember Sarah, my nurse, looking across to me with a look of horror on her face. I could feel the curtains of darkness being drawn in. My eyesight started to narrow to a small tunnel of vision. And then the last thing I can remember before I blacked out was Sarah running towards me, and I can remember her calling out to the other nursing staff that I was having a problem. And then everything went black and everything went silent.
How did you feel? Were you frightened?
No, I wasn't frightened at all. I didn't feel any panic. It felt completely calm, like this was part of what was meant to happen. And then my next awareness was that I was looking down on my physical body. So I should explain that the treatment room and the hospital that I go to is on the 3rd floor, that they'd put me in a bay by the window. It was December. It was a few days before Christmas. It was one of those cold days where it's below zero, but the the precipitation is still liquid. It's almost like freezing rain. So bitterly cold outside. And I became aware that I was floating outside the window. I was looking in through the window to start with just the top of my head, because when I started the treatment, I was in a sitting position. And then I watched as Sarah drew the curtains around the treatment bay that I was in, and 4 other nurses came through the curtains, and they tipped the reclining chair that I was in back, so I was now in a horizontal position. And Sarah disconnected the drip from my cannula, which was in the back of my left hand, and then they connected me up to a blood pressure monitor, and they put a pulse monitor on my finger. And then I can remember hearing them say that my blood pressure was falling rapidly, and they're reading out my blood pressure and my pulse and my oxygen saturation. I'm not panicking at all. I'm just watching. It's like watching a TV show. It's like, oh, there's some activity here. Let's see what happens next.
And did you have any sensation of where you were at that time? As you were looking down, did you have a sensation that you were on the ceiling, outside?
I was outside the window. I was not at all worried.
And so you were 3 stories up at this point?
3 stories up, but that hadn't registered.
Yeah.
It's like I was standing just observing a medical emergency. And then one of the nurses announced that my heart had stopped and that my respiration had stopped. My blood pressure had dropped to nothing, and that I'd passed. And then, of course, there was a lot of commotion on the inside of the window. There was people connecting me up to various monitors, and there was a grey-haired nurse to my left put something else into the cannula on my left hand. And then a little while later, one of the nurses put a needle into my chest, and they called for the crash team.
You couldn't feel any of this?
No, I couldn't feel any pain. And in fact, I didn't feel any pain at any time. The moment of passing was completely calm and completely pain-free. And the time that I was out of my body, there was no panic, there were no negative thoughts at all. I felt warm. As I became aware that I was outside, I was floating 3 stories up, that I was in this freezing rain, but I felt warm, and I felt calm, and I felt surrounded by love. This was a nice place to be. There was no panic, there was no pain, just an overwhelming sense of love, just absolutely surrounded by love. So I can remember thinking that I need to remember what's going on here. Of course, at that point, I didn't know I was going to be coming back, but I wanted to savour the experience is the wrong word, but I wanted to make sure that I experienced the whole thing. So I took a look around. I was aware of this story that you might see a tunnel of light, or you might see loved ones who've previously passed over. I didn't see a tunnel of light, and I didn't see anybody individual. I was aware that I wasn't alone. I felt surrounded. I felt comforted by spirit.
Yeah.
But I didn't see any individual spirits. Didn't see a tunnel of light. I was aware that the colour balance of my sight had changed, that the shadows were a sort of dark blue colour and the highlights were a sort of pale yellow colour. And I could, I'm going to say I could see through the wall. So the first thing I was aware of is that I could see through the curtains. They'd drawn a curtain around the bay, to presumably to protect the other patients from the trauma of watching somebody pass away. And I was aware that I could see past the curtains. But it's not like they were transparent. The further I looked, I was aware that I could see through the walls of the treatment room into the office beyond, and through those into the waiting room, and indeed outside of the hospital. But it wasn't like everything became see-through. The closest I can get to it is that it felt, you know when there's a doll's house and you take the roof off the doll's house and you can see all of it at one go.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that, except that I wasn't looking down from above. I was in it, but able to see everything at the same time.
So everything that would have been solid wasn't solid in your view.
It was solid, but I was aware of what was the other side. Like I could see everything from all perspectives at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
So where I wasn't constraining my view of the world. I could see all of it at the same time. And then, of course, being a scientist, I thought, let's do some experimentation. So I thought, can I move? Well, how do I move? Because that's the first time I became aware that I didn't have a body. Mm. So I just thought left. And I moved to the left, and I thought right, and I moved to the right. And I thought back, and I started moving backward. And then forwards, and I moved towards the window. But if I kept thinking forwards, I couldn't get back through the window. And I know we've talked about this before, but before we talked about this, I thought that perhaps this barrier from moving forward was the fact that I couldn't go through the window. But we've since discussed what was happening to me, and you think the barrier was my physical body rather than just a pane of glass. So I did some experimentation, and I had a good look around, and my main memory of while I was there is this. It's just a beautiful place. It's a place of love and comfort and warmth. And the transition from this earthly plane into that place is calm and without panic, and it's pain-free. And then after about 6 minutes, they were getting some piece of machinery ready to try and shock me back. The grey-haired nurse who'd earlier put the needle in my chest said, oh, wait, I think he's coming back. And actually my first thought was, no, I don't want to go back. There's no worry here, there's no pressure, there's no stress, there's nothing but love and light and warmth. I'm perfectly happy where I am.
Where did you actually feel that you were? Because, I mean, the vision you've given us is you looking into the hospital, and I don't suppose you'd have wanted to stay just
No,
place.
No, that was my viewpoint, but my viewpoint was hovering outside the window, but I felt as though I was in spirit.
Okay. So
or at least in the waiting room for spirit. I'm not
you felt like you were somewhere different to what you were seeing.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so she said, he's coming back, and I thought, no, I don't want to go back. And then, strange feeling, it felt like my existence was physically gripped, and that I was pulled back into my body. The kind of feeling that you have when sometimes if you go over a bridge too quickly in a car, you'll feel this sort of dropping sensation. Yeah. Or in a dream where you'll suddenly feel as though you're falling and you shock yourself awake. That kind of feeling, and then I was aware that I was back in my body, and I took a big deep breath and realised that I'd been dead for 6 minutes, and that I'd been blessed with this experience. As I said earlier, I've always been spiritual, but now maybe my scientific side was needing a bit of proof, and Spirit decided to give me a bit of proof. Wow. Although I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it as a way of getting proof. But yeah, they checked me over and made sure that I was didn't need any more immediate care. And after about half an hour, there was a shift change. The nursing staff handed over to a new shift, and one of the new nurses came around looking at her sheet and said, you're in for an infusion of this medication. I said, yes. She says, so are you finished? I said, yes, I'm finished. She says, well, I suppose you can go home then. And I was quite keen to get out. I didn't fancy having a night in hospital.
So they hadn't recorded?
Well, they had recorded, but I was a bit too quick to accept this invitation to leave. So half an hour after being resuscitated, they did one last set of observations, and I walked the 20 minutes home.
So that's unique.
That is very unique, yeah.
Well, yeah, probably ill-advised.
Ill-advised and unique. I knew we'd get a unique in there.
But you were able to walk.
Yes, I walked
20 minutes home.
Yeah, slowly. I walked
so your obs
home.
must have been okay.
Yeah.
For them to say that you could go.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And then as soon as I got home, so I told my wife what had happened.
But she was pleased.
Yeah, so she wanted me to just go to bed and rest and check that I was okay. But actually what I wanted to do, the priority for me, was that I recorded my experiences, because I'm aware of false memories and the fact that if you remember something, sometimes you're remembering your memory of it. And so again, the scientist in me didn't want to compromise my experience with false memories. So almost the first thing I did when I got home was that I wrote out the experience in as much detail as I could. Of course, the next day I got a phone call from the hospital telling me what a naughty boy I'd been for going home. So I went back into hospital, and I took this piece of paper with me with my detailed account of what had happened, and asked the nursing staff, one or two of them were there the second time I went in, could I just read this to you, or have a read, and tell me, was this my dying brain imagining things, or did any of this happen while I was gone? And they confirmed that yes, that is what happened. Those were the nurses standing to your left and your right, and that was the machine that you were connected to, and they did put that needle in your chest. And so those were memories that I'd had, which couldn't have been acquired through normal senses. Always been spiritual, but that was really a game changer for me, that it transformed it from a belief into a evidence-based.
So you're a scientific medium?
Yeah.
You've had a spiritual experience using your science to record it, and your scientific mind actually worked in a positive way regarding spirituality in a strange way.
Yeah, so I believe that Spirit intended me to have that experience for some reason, and maybe a little part of that is to explain this to your listeners. Because
you're credible in the world regarding what you do, and the fact that you actually use your scientific brain to sort of make sure that it wasn't a dream or wasn't an imagination.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful, the fact that you did that, because it makes this story all the more amazing.
What was the reaction from the nursing staff when you were asking them?
That it wasn't unusual.
They wasn't
really?
surprised.
They weren't surprised?
Yeah, they obviously, while they're dealing with the medical emergency, they have to be in professional mode. That there's jobs for them to do that will save a person's life. But it turns out that quite a few of them have had plenty of experiences in their professional lives, that they've experienced people who pass and don't come back, and that in the last days and hours and minutes of the process of dying, that they're with these people, and these people explain what's happening, and that's also a deeply spiritual experience. And they've had people who've had my experience, where they've
been revived.
Where physical life has temporarily ended, and then they've come back with these wonderful insights.
Amazing, it really is.
And did you have any after effects at all?
Not physically. I mean, I'm not miraculously cured from my chronic condition. I still go to the same hospital. I sit in the same chair occasionally. I try not to be a drama queen again. So physically it didn't change me. It reinforced my spiritual beliefs, and it prepared me for what was to come a number of months later, when my wife very sadly passed away suddenly. And it was a great comfort to me to know that she hadn't suffered, that the moment of passing would have been without panic and without pain, and that she was in a good place that was warm and full of love. Maybe that was Spirit's way of helping me.
To give you comfort, because you wouldn't have had that comfort otherwise.
No.
And I do believe the Spirit work on lots of levels at the same time, because there's lots of kind of benefits for that for yourself. That was one of the main ones, but it's also enhanced your spiritual understanding and allowed you to go further on your spiritual path.
Well, yes. So we met after this happened, and after my wife passed. And yes, I've been on your workshops, and I attend your circle. I've been on. I think I just attended my 10th retreat. And over the years, and I should say it has been years. You've helped me on my spiritual pathway now for 3 or 4 years, and it sometimes feels like slow progress, but there's a whole world that opens up to you. That there's insights and wisdom that you can gain access to through this practice that just aren't available any other way.
Yeah.
And it empowers you. It makes you feel as though you have a worthwhile life, and that it
changes your life view completely, doesn't it?
Indeed, it does.
Yeah.
It does, and it brings about a new level of friendship as well.
Yeah.
Within what we class, and we've said it many times on here, our tribe.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't belong to us. It belongs to, when I say our tribe, it's everybody in the tribe that it belongs to.
Yes, I do feel as though I've now found my spiritual family.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And that is what we all want.
Yes.
We all want to feel safe and belong. And you knowing that when you pass, you go to somewhere safe and warm and a feeling of love, which some people might not have in this life.
No.
Yeah.
So to know that you're going to pass to that.
Yeah. And your story's inspired lots of people, including myself. I've had a lot of inspiration from your story, knowing you, the person that you are, and knowing it to be 100% true what you experienced. It has helped me and many others that you've given this, told this story to, and hopefully a lot of people who listen to this podcast will also get it will also help them.
Give them comfort.
But I was just thinking, you said 10 retreats. Really, we should be issuing badges for that.
Well, I should say that this is so. I've explained this story to you, and I think on a couple of your retreats I've recounted these insights. This is the first time that I've recorded it for public consumption.
Yeah.
I still feel uncomfortable exposing the spiritual side of me quite as publicly as maybe some people might, because my life and my livelihood is so rooted in science, and I don't want to lose that credibility.
I understand. Science has just got to catch up.
Yeah, exactly. I do feel that spreading this story a little wider is serving Spirit.
Yeah.
I think it's time for this, for my experience, to be more widely known and to reassure and comfort.
Well, we're very grateful for you sharing it with us and with our listeners, and I think it will be very well received, because I think it's unique.
But you're unique. If
Yes, your unique way of
for
telling
better
it.
or worse.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, so been a pleasure to have you as our guest. Our
Absolutely.
first actual guest. There will be more, but it's been a pleasure.
It's going to be a
talking
hard
to you,
act to
Mark.
follow, Mark. So thank you
not at
very
all.
much.
It's
for
been
that.
an absolute delight speaking with you, and I'll be listening to the podcasts as ever.
So will I.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
and sending our love as always out to whoever needs it.
Yeah. And
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, just keep smiling and keep happy.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
You've been listening to Exploring Spirit with John and Sue Cook. John and Sue are always happy to hear from old friends and new listeners alike. You can reach them via their website at johncookmedium.co.uk or on their Facebook page, John Cook Medium. We thank Vitaly Vakulenko for the rights to use his music via Pixabay.